Well, welcome. My name is Marc DeLarco. I'm the interim dean of the College of Graduate Studies. And the College of Graduate Studies is interesting because it's our newest college at San Jose State University. It launched in January of 2019, and I was appointed as the inaugural interim dean. So we are here to support graduate students, which I assume most of you are. We'll get to that in just a minute. This event is one of the many ways in which we hope to support graduate students. This event, the TA training, is a collaboration between the new College of Graduate Studies and their Center for Faculty Development. So we are excited to bring this to you. We are experimenting a little bit with this, so please let us know if there are things that you think that we should do differently for future classes of TAs. A couple of things. First, I want to know sort of who you all are. So how many of you are graduate students? Okay, as expected. How many of you are TAs? Okay, because some of you are ISAs or GSAs. There are other forms of work here. Okay, so the first thing that I'd like to say, I guess, is that if you are a teaching associate, but only a TA, there is a mechanism to get a tuition remission. Are you aware of that? If you are not aware of that, become aware of that. So let me know and I can help you with that if you don't know what I'm talking about. The second thing I wanted to say is, well, actually, let me ask you, how many are TAs for the first time this year? Okay, great. I don't know how you're feeling, but I can vaguely remember when I was a TA for the first time. It was quite a while ago. And I had this very strange combination of feelings about it. On the one hand, I was proud because I was going to be able to contribute to the education of other students, which I thought was really a cool thing. But to be honest, I was terrified as well because I was responsible, at least in part, for the education of these other students. And so I don't know if this is a feeling that you all share, but I want to, I guess, let you know that from my perspective, being a little bit terrified is actually a good thing. It energizes us. I get a little bit terrified before I speak in front of people all the time. This morning, before coming in here, I was like, oh, what am I going to say to these people? So it's a natural thing, and I think that being a little bit nervous about what you're doing is a good way of assuring that you put your energy into doing a good job. So I want you to, channel whatever nervousness you feel into energy, because I think that's very valuable. I don't want to say a whole lot more other than we are delighted that you are here as part of our teaching faculty at San Jose State University. So thank you for agreeing to do that. I hope that this is as rewarding as an experience for you as it was for me. I found that the first time that I really understood some of the material that I had taken as an undergraduate was when I taught it as a graduate student. That's when I really learned, I'm a chemist, that's when I really learned what general chemistry was actually about, was when I tried to explain it to others. So I hope you have the experience of not only contributing to your students' education, but developing a new appreciation for your own field through this exercise. So I don't want to say anything more. We started a couple minutes late. We do have some refreshments that have just arrived, so do not feel inhibited to get up and go and get some coffee or juice or, I don't know, we have some pastries and things like that. Go ahead and do that throughout the morning whenever you're ready, and just we'll make do with the fact that people are doing that now because we started a little bit late. So I apologize for that. But anyway, thank you for being here. We do want to hear your comments after the fact about how this training went, so we'll be reaching out to you for comments. Please do fill out whatever survey we send you, and good luck. So I think we're ready to begin our sort of official program of events. So our first session for about 20 minutes is on student conduct, academic integrity, and professional conduct. And our speaker is Alex Froehlich from the Student Conduct and Ethical Development Office. So please welcome her.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing this morning? Well, thank you all for being here. Instead of doing a formal presentation, I'm hoping that we can have kind of a conversation about what you might encounter and how to handle some of those situations. So I'm going to first talk a little bit about academic integrity and what our process is, and then talk a little bit about the fun of disruptive students and how to deal with that. Does that sound good? So first, academic integrity, we have a massive policy here on campus. You can go and Google it, but simply put, we don't allow copying and we don't allow plagiarism. Same as you would have been expected in your coursework, we expect of our students. And simply put, if you encounter that, there's an expectation that you report it. Now, I imagine in each of your structures, you need to talk with your faculty that will be overseeing with you about how you want to handle those situations. So for example, a TA did some great detective work last semester when they were grading some different tests in a physics class. And of course, they stumbled across the fact that they had two identical tests in the same pile. And then they brought that to their faculty's attention. And the faculty was the one that reported it, but the TA was the one that found it. So those are some of the different situations that you might encounter and how you might handle it. Now, what we would ask that you do is that you have a conversation with the student or talk to your faculty if they expect that they're going to have that conversation with the student. And then provide us as much documentation as you possibly can. So if, for example, earlier this week, I was adjudicating a case where a student had sent the file to multiple people to edit the file, and they looked in the properties and you could see that it had been changed and saved a few different ways. So that is one way that we were able to see that there was some academic dishonesty there. So we would ask that you do those sorts of things and provide us as much information as you can. Sometimes students will be really honest in their emails to you and be like, yes, I consulted with a friend. Attach that email on the form. The form is on sjsu.edu/student conduct. You are required, if there's any outcome in a classroom, that there is that report afterwards. So in a classroom, you can have an oral reprimand of the student. You can have a lower grade or failure on evaluation instrument, or lower grade or failure in the class. On the administrative side, which is what I oversee, where our typical baseline for any of our students is a reflection paper and a disciplinary probation for a year. Basically, that means you're not in good standing with the university, you can't be serving in different leadership roles, things like that, but it's our official warning. Now, there are situations that things might be a little bit more intense, for example. So if you, plagiarize your master's thesis, which we did have, you're probably going to be expelled. So there are variations to that, but know that if a student is coming in for the first time, we're really having an educational conversation with them and trying to figure out how we change the behavior so it's not happening moving forward. And then there's two options when you report. You can report for statistics only, meaning if it's the student's first time having an offense, it's just categorized in our database. We notify them that we got a report. We notify you that we have processed it. If it is more egregious in your mind, or it is a student's second or more time, then we do administrative process. We'll have a conference meeting with the student. Then we will sign or give them a proposed resolution agreement. For lack of a better term, a proposed resolution agreement is kind of like a plea deal. It's our way to say, here is a conversation, what we think the best outcomes would be, and they can sign and agree to it that this is what they're agreeing to with the university. If they choose not to sign it, we go to what's called a formal hearing. So some of the people you might meet with later on today are some of my phenomenal hearing officers, but they hear the case and I present the university side, the student presents their side, and then there's a formal outcome from the vice president of student affairs. Our entire process may take 2 months. So if it is an administrative process, you will get a message at the end of that process saying, hey, here was the outcome for that situation. So if you have any questions at any point in time of where something is, feel free to always call us. We might not be able to fully be like, yes, this is exactly where we're at, but we will do our best to tell you where something is in our process. Any questions on that academic integrity side? None? Sweet. disruptive students. So our next portion is about disruptive students. So our university officially does not have a disruptive student policy, but we do say that what is put in a syllabus is that contract between the faculty and the student for those expectations for behavior. So if you're working on a syllabus or working with your faculty on a syllabus, please be sure that there is some of that behavioral pieces in there. What are the expectations around a restroom? What are the expectations around cell phone use? What are the expectations around how you engage within the classroom? Are you allowed to use profanity and stand up and yell and scream? Most likely not. That's not our classroom environment. But those are some of the things that would be helpful to have in that syllabus environment. And then we ask you to document. So if there is a first-time offense, please have a verbal conversation with that student. If the second, put it in writing, and then third time, send it our way with that documentation about, on this date, I had this conversation. Then we're able to adjudicate. If it is the first time something happens or it's just one thing, it's really hard for me to say that there is a continued behavioral violation that's impacting our campus community. Does that make sense? Now, if there is an emergency, so for example, last year at one point in time, we had a student that made the really great life choice to take some drugs and come to class. Not very positive, but then they had their peers actually having to restrain them in the classroom. That is an emergency situation. Call University Police. Do you all have University Police's phone number in your phone? 408-924-2222. Call them. They are crisis response 24/7. Anytime there's anything that's at that higher level that needs an immediate response, there's a health and safety concern, you are going to call them. We can't be that immediate response. They can be that immediate response components. Any questions there? The other last weird caveat that you might get from me is when there is a situation where a student is being removed from the classroom, you won't get information saying, hey, this person was interim suspended. You will get a very cryptic email from me saying, so-and-so is no longer allowed in your classroom. If they show up, please contact our office. That means that they are at a level where we are at a concern for safety for campus, either people or property. So at that point in time, if they do show up in your classroom, we ask that you call and notify us. It will be slightly intimidating, and I tell you this now. I will show up with 2 police officers behind me and escort that student out of the classroom. We will do it as tactfully and nicely as possible. I've only had to do it twice, but those are situations where the student has been forewarned that they are not allowed to be on campus, and that really is about the safety of our community. Sound good? Any questions? Are you all getting a behavioral intervention team talk later? Okay, so I'm going to give you a little, sorry. Definitely. So our phone number is 408-924-5985 or studentconduct@sjsu.edu. We all get those emails, so that is the best way to get a hold of myself or any person on our team, and we will be able to respond in that way. Behavioral intervention team, I'm going to give you a little bit of glimpse into that. So our behavioral intervention team is a group of individuals that is here for the overall care of our students. And really it was created after Virginia Tech happened back in 2007, 2008. And really the response level there is for any students that are harmed to self, actually students, faculty, or staff that are harm to self or harm to others. And if you are seeing any behaviors that you think are concerning, so for example, we've had some students that have written some concerning things in papers, send that to the behavioral intervention team. If you just Google behavioral intervention team, you'll get to the form. Again, it's all about documentation. Like I said, immediate threat to self or threat to others, threat to self, you're always calling University Police. They are the 24-hour response. But if it is, this paper has got some things, I'm concerned about it. Or I'm watching this student become disheveled. So for example, you can watch someone's behavior change over the course of a semester, right? They come really put together, and then all of a sudden you're starting to see some weight loss, or they're not showering as much, or any of those kind of things. Those are things to be on the lookout for. And then you would report that to the behavioral intervention intervention team, they might not necessarily say back to you, hey, this is exactly what happened. And you can say, I'd really prefer that my information is not given to the individual that you reported. But for the most part, that information will then be circled to a team of us that will try to pinpoint what's actually going on with the student and have a conversation and get the correct intervention needed. So whether that's counseling and psychological service, whether that's saying, hey, maybe it's time to step out for a semester, or maybe there's other things that we are aware of that are going on that then we can get that correct support. So that's another great area. Any questions on that? You are my least talkative group that I have presented to in the past 3 days. Did I miss anything that you would expect that I would cover? No. Oh, yes.
Say there's a case where we have a student who's a friend of ours or is in our extended social group. Is there something particular we need to do to declare a conflict of interest?
For me particularly, or in that course in your classes?
Yeah.
I would not be the right person to say that, answer that question. One of the other presenters would. If you were reporting stuff to me, so for example, say that one of your close friends has expressed to you harm to themselves, like they are experiencing suicidal thoughts. You can always report that, and I would assume that because you were in this role, you're actually a mandated reporter. So you would need to report that kind of information. So that would be the only areas that I would caution you with when it comes to some of those peer group things on whether or not where your role falls. Do you know if they're officially mandated reporters?
Yes, and we're going to have training on that.
Fabulous. So, and for example, at my last institution, my younger brother was actually a student there while I was a staff member, and I would have to be very direct with him. Like, if you have any of these conversations with me, I can never take off that university hat. It's glued to my head. Like, I love you dearly. You were my little brother. You were my light of my life. But guess what? Like, if you tell me about a sexual assault, I can't keep that confidential. And I just had to be transparent about those different conversations. One of the worst and coolest situations I ever dealt with as a staff member was actually a fraternity president was an RA. And he realized one of his men said, I think I sexually assaulted someone. He's like, well, you know, I'm a mandated reporter because I'm an RA, and walked that brother right into public safety. So there are those moments that stink, but are also great because you get the opportunity to help people in those times of need. Any other questions? Well, I mean this in the most loving way. I hope I don't get to interact with you and that you have perfect semesters and that you don't have any disruptive students and everyone does not cheat or plagiarize. But if you do, know that our door is always open. I always joke that my job is to ensure that you gain the freshman 15. So we always have candy in my office. We're a few buildings that way, administration 269. If you need that, pick me up candy throughout the day. But otherwise, have a phenomenal semester. And I can't wait to see all the amazing things y'all do.
Great. Thank you very much, Alex.